After viewing the interview that I was fortunate enough to have with Sharlene X, I think Erickson's second stage of early childhood development, or shame versus doubt, is pretty self-explanatory in what has happened to this young lady. She hails from a family in and of itself who had many issues that caused the mother to become primarily dysfunctional. She herself was addicted to drug and alcohol at the time that she gave birth to Sharlene X. As a result of that, Sharlene was never able to appropriately attach or attune with her mother. She was more or less left to her own devices at a very early age. She was a victim of the system, and that experience in itself precipitated her running away on numerous occasions, and having no one with whom she could bond or relate. She took to the streets, where she was unfortunately highly influenced by peer pressure, where she began to use drug and alcohol as a means of escape. She herself admits that as a result of her drug and alcohol usage, she became homeless, and while in the streets, she went from home to home, living with anybody that would allow her to stay a night or two. It was also during this time period that she used drug and alcohol more and more, to the point where she herself became dependent. And as a means of supporting her drug and alcohol habit, she found herself in the thralls of teenage prostitution, which is very unfortunate. And for her, I can only imagine, had to have been a very devastating experience for her. She became impregnated during the time period in which she was homeless. And not only was she herself caught in a situation where she was without, the primary things with which we all need and deserve, food, clothing, and shelter, she now had a young child that she had to care for herself. And as she explained during the interview, she didn't have much knowledge or awareness as to how to access the environmental resources. I would say, as for my involvement with her, I think that a power greater than myself places those persons on our path at any given time, whether we expect them or not, for us to be able to offer them some aid and assistance. So when I met this young lady, I was fortunate enough to have enough wherewithal to help guide her to the different agencies and programs, that she was able to utilize, and helping herself to become stable, not only herself but her child as well. She was initiated into the WIC program, where she was able to find the medical care and appropriate foods and nutrition, healthy nutrition for her daughter. And she was also fortunate enough to find temporary housing at the YWCA. And at the YWCA, there are many programs to help young women who find themselves in the same position as Sharlene X. They helped her first by becoming stable in terms of shelter, and provided for her as well as her young child healthy and nutritious foods. So two things were dealt with. That's her homelessness and her ability to feed herself as well as her child, with healthy and nutritious foods. Also, by way of the WIC program, her daughter was able to get her necessary vaccinations, her shots, and everything that she needed to help her to grow and develop, more properly. Things that Sharlene herself did not have the experience of, because of her being placed in a foster home. Since being involved with the YWCA, Sharlene has also been fortunate enough to educate herself. She now has her GED, and this is something that she is very, very proud of, and I'm very proud of her as well. And because she now has her GED, she's also able to find gainful employment. And she is beginning, also by way of the Y, to take parenting classes. And these classes will help her in becoming a better mother to her child than she had in her lifetime growing up. She didn't have a mom or anybody else who really cared for her. My way of involvement is to continue working alongside of Sharlene to help encourage her, to help her in accessing the necessary resources within her interactional environment, even if it means, providing transportation to various appointments and things places she may need to go. I consider it a privilege and a blessing for me to be able to do so. She right now today, she has stable housing. She has appropriate amount of food, and not only does she have housing and food, but she knows how to access these resources. These are things that she's learned, and I'm very proud to have been able to take a part in that. Other than these things, Sharlene has expressed to me that she has a very, very bad sense of self. And in terms of our social work intervention, I am making a referral for her to attend the program called Gaudenzia Outreach. Perhaps some of you have heard of it. And they now have a counterpart. It's multifaceted in that it's for dual diagnosed clients. Whereas in the past it was strictly for persons who were addicted to drug and or alcohol. But now they're able to facilitate young women such as Sharlene who are in need of mental health counseling, as well as drug and alcohol counseling, to help her to maintain her sobriety and her recovery. It is my hope that as she progresses in this program, that she'll be able to begin to talk about all the horrific things that happened to her during her young childhood and adolescence, things that have fostered her sense of low self-esteem, and have permitted her to devalue herself to the point where she has so freely and so willingly allowed herself to prostitute. I think as she receives this counseling and therapy, that she'll learn, hopefully, to at first like herself, and to respect herself, and gradually even love herself.